Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. In the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to Cairo, Egypt, in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble,
Assemble.
Volume 105. And we are not alone tonight.
We are not. We've got
Well,
a
we're
party
never
crasher.
we're never alone. I mean, we have the
Aw,
listeners, we have these people, but we are physically, virtually not alone. Mr. Travis Hines is joining us. How are you
thanks
doing,
for
sir?
pretty good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course.
I'm coming in as pretty much general audience as you get for this. I knew nothing about Moon Knight before. Never saw him in anything. Never read him in anything. Chris has given me stuff to read. He gave it to me, I think, after week 1 of Moon Knight. But I've chosen to wait until after this season is done. I don't want to get any comic spoilers for me. So I'm holding off, and I am loving the show, and I'm shocked at what they're doing. For people who say Marvel does the same thing every time, absolutely
Every time.
shocked.
Every
Absolutely
time.
shocked at the superhero suit ratio to not. Blown away, and love it.
Well, yeah, they also don't let their people do what they want either.
Nope. Never.
Yeah, no, not like the female character that I read today was completely changed because the director wanted it to. That stuff never happens.
Gotcha. Well,
I don't
you
know
sound
that
to be
story.
doing well. I think you said you're done with finals now, right?
Yes, full summer off, going to work on a work term in another 2 weeks. So just enjoying myself, getting out podcasts in the meantime, and watching shows. Thanking the Lord that Superman and Lois is not like everything else on the CW. So we got that going. Yay, DC! All that positive news lately.
It's the little things, right? It's the little things. How's your week been, Brent?
You know, I really can't complain overall. Been pretty good. I'm excited for 1 week from right now when we are, 1 week from right now, I've seen a movie and we got a good Moon Knight episode to talk about. Travis is hanging out. I can't complain. I'm good.
Yeah. I'll probably be wrapping up because my showing's 7:10, so I'll be that kind of lovely 2 hours runtime. So we'll see what kind of awesome stuff we do get, but we gotta wait a week and a day to review the stuff. So all right, so let's get all those network plugs out of the way. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 8 shows. On Mondays, we've got Ranger Alliance alternating bi-weekly with Slice of Film. So make sure you check out that new lineup at that point. I believe it was Slice of Film this week, correct?
I think so.
Yeah, there we go.
I haven't been listening
I'm
to
a little bit
podcasts,
behind. I'm a little
unfortunately.
bit behind. Yeah, so we're gonna go with yes, and then Ranger Alliance will come back next week, and then DC Alliance on Tuesdays, Super discussions on Wednesdays, Star Wars Alliance on Thursdays, Marvel Alliance on Fridays, a walk through the multiverse alternating bi-weekly on Saturdays, and then my show comes back at the end of this coming month. Well, technically we're still in April, so yes, going monthly with this on last Sunday of the month. New episode will come at that point. So for your Memorial Day pleasure, as it were, because that's when it'll drop on that Sunday before. So if you want to check any of these shows live, some of these shows do go live on the Geekverse YouTube podcast channel. So make sure you check that out and put that notification bell for when they go live. That would be DC Alliance goes live on Monday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Star Wars Alliance goes live on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And this show goes live 9:10 Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. And each one of those shows has a solo feed separate from the GUA feed. If you just want to listen to those separate shows, we do appreciate it. And if you want to join us on Patreon, you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we want to thank our patrons. We cannot do this without your support. We have 2 tiers. We got a $1 tier as our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job. And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, Patreon exclusive shows, and early access episodes. Brent, we did a thing this week.
We did. We did. We were a little delayed getting it out there. It dropped about the same time. Getting it recorded, we were a little delayed. But regardless, the Incredible Hulk is now in your feed. So patrons, go to GUA. What do we got? Patreon.com/GUA network, and you can find that and check it out.
Yes, we got a lot of stuff on there. We've got Travis's, your illustrious top 5s that'll never run out. It'll go into infinity, right?
Yes, that's correct. And I just want to say, Incredible Hulk, very underrated MCU movie. Very underrated.
Concur.
Thank you, Universal, for not letting us have any more solo Hulk films. How are you enjoying missing out on all that money?
It's not Universal that's stopping it. Just to be
Yeah,
clear.
no, yep.
Right.
We do go over that in the episode. So, but yeah, so we got the top fives. We got Joe going through with his multiverse minutes with the march through the episodes of The Boys. Katie looking at the legends and canon of the comics and the novels of Star Wars. Then we've got Snell and Clay getting ready to look at Batman 89, continuing that journey. I think those are all the shows. I know the Ranger Alliance crew did a look at the uh, future of the Power Rangers in their suits going on to the Netflix shows, what that evolution could be like. So got a lot of good stuff. Hope you're enjoying it, patrons. But if you can't join us on Patreon, we totally understand. If you want to take 30 to 90 seconds and rate the Marvel Alliance and or the GUA feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcatcher choice may be, we greatly appreciate that. And last but not least, want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus collected edition needs. Use that code MARVELGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. The new final order cutoff had just gone live this past weekend, so make sure you check out all those books. And again, use that code MARVELGUA at checkout every single time. I want to thank JP and the crew at OPB for being our official sponsor. All right, gentlemen. Before we get into the Moon Knight proper, next week, as we've said over and over again already, we've got a big week. It is a major week. I would have to say.
Yes.
You've got besides the finale of Moon Knight next week, we've got Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. For us Star Trek fans, it is the finale of season 2 of Picard and the premiere of Strange New Worlds. That's a double dose at that point. There might be a few other things at that point, but my Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are packed now. So with that in mind, as you know, with the usual review weeks, if we have a Disney Plus show, we are moving to going live on Wednesday to talk about Moon Knight. If there is a big news item, we will talk about it. But otherwise, if it's smaller ones, we will punch it to the next week. I want to thank Travis and Clay for allowing us to take over their Wednesday spot for Superman and Lois live, so that we can go live for the Moon Knight finale. We will do the beginning of our new comic book club as well with Annihilation #1. So, but yeah, we're talking about that Moon Knight finale. So that's going to be exciting. And then on Friday, the big one, the beginning of the MCU in 2022 in the movies, in the film, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We will bring our review panel at 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. We will go live with yourself, Mr. Hines. Yes. Brent obviously will be joining in. Yep. We've got Joe coming in as well. Right now, Clay is a maybe. He might be moving, so he's claimed a spot, but he might be moving. In our final spot, it will be going to Katie at that point. So we got a full 6-person panel looking at what is going to happen in the Multiverse of Madness. So I know we are all excited for this. Tickets have been bought. Brent, you're seeing it twice. Are you going to be able to see it twice, Mr. Hines?
I'm not sure yet. I didn't know before, but if I was going to be working, but I'm going to be working the following week. So I know I already have my tickets for 4 p.m. at Newfoundland Standard Time. And no one even knows what that is.
What time is that?
There you go. Island time.
That's like Baltimore 6:42 at that point. Nobody knows.
Island time.
Island time. Island time to me is Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, you're going to find a second viewing. Good.
I'm going to try, for the next Friday. But
succeed.
Yep.
It should. I have a feeling I'm going to like it so much that I can't wait. And also watch out, listeners. It's already gone crazy out there online. Make sure, like Brent said, I had to switch my media previews back when Brent wrote it in our GUA chat. So just watch yourself out there.
Yep, we're not talking about the new TV trailer that they just dropped out there. We're not seeing it. We've turned it off. Please do not. If you are watching live, please don't be a jerk and tell us about it. We really don't want to know about it. We're trying to enjoy. Have we talked about probably some of the cameos that are in it? Probably. But seeing it and experiencing it are two different things. So.
There's a difference between rumors and speculation and knowing ahead of time. Brock gave me the warning that there were some gifts and stuff coming out of these new TV spots or whatever, and I'm just like, great, thanks. Media previews are off. Appreciate it. Thanks for the heads up, man.
Do you think they're doing that because of how good the pre-ticket sale numbers were? Like they're trying to push it even more? Because I think I have a Fact or Fiction tied into all that.
I mean, every single move they make for marketing is because they think it's the optimal move to sell the most tickets. Every single move they make, that is, yes, always true.
And remember, this is not geared towards us. All of us are like, oh my God, you're ruining the whole thing. It's like the GA is like, oh, I was thinking about seeing it. Now I want to see it at that point. Remember, Travis Snell was saying they should have brought in Toby and Andrew into one of those trailers to really sell it.
I mean, yeah, that movie, it bombed. It could have done better if they just advertised they were in it.
But
but remember, if you're on Twitter and you get spoiled, you shouldn't have been there. So take some personal.
Do your best. I will do your
ownership.
best. So some people can't be off of it for one reason or another, but you got to do your best.
I just myself muted about 10 more terms related that I could think of related
to before we even got on.
Oh no, I did it while we were starting.
Yep. Oh, there we go. All right. So again, we will do our Moon Knight finale Wednesday night live on the Geekverse YouTube channel, and then we will go live Friday night with the review. The new the episode for Wednesday night will drop as usual on Friday night, and Friday morning, and then the review will drop Saturday morning at that point. So yeah, so that's all the paperwork. Thank y'all for bearing with me. And now let us get into the penultimate episode of Moon Knight. So I'm going to start with Mr. Hines. Non-spoiler thoughts. What did you think of it?
I really loved it. I know I wrote you guys in the chat and said Moon Knight was ripping off Smallville season 6, episode 12. Obviously, Brent said, which is right, this trope has gone on for a long time. But I just love the fact that you question if it's actually going on or not multiple times. Is it in his head? Is it not? And I enjoy that throughout the whole movie, plus learning other things, especially the backstory for Mark. Like, it was heartbreaking. I wasn't expecting to feel those emotions, and especially at the very end, I was devastated at the very end of this episode, and I didn't expect to be because of what happened. But if you told me beforehand, but I was devastated. So I love this, and I'm still shocked at how little we've seen him in the Moon Knight costume. It just blows my mind that they don't care. It's really refreshing.
Brent, what'd you think?
This was the finest performance by Oscar Isaac to date. Absolutely compelling, heartbreaking performance that he turned in here. Just incredible. Now, it did not reveal something that I would have bet a whole lot of money on, and a lot of other people would have bet a whole lot of money on. But regardless, just absolutely stunned. You know, some of these Disney Plus shows, when you watch them, you just know, right? Like, you know, like, this one is special. Like, WandaVision episode 8, you know, Loki episode 6, right? And now I'm personally going to put this episode, Moon Knight episode 5, in that category. You just know, regardless of what happens next week, this was a special episode. I do have some concern at how much there is to wrap up. Now, I don't normally have that issue, like Hawkeye, WandaVision, Loki, etc. Like those, Falcon and Winter Soldier, those have all wrapped up fine for me. I have not felt the rush complaints that I know other people have. I'm a little concerned with how much they have left to do in this one, but if it's at least on par with the previous 5 episodes, you know, in that ballpark, it doesn't have to be as good as episode 5 was, but even if it's as good as anything from 1 through 4, I'll be fine with it.
Yeah, I told Travis after he said he saw the episode, this was a very, very character-driven episode, deep diving. We had been saying for a while now, when are we going to see kind of the backstory of Mark, and when are we going to dive into it? And it felt like this was going to be the episode we were going to see it. Yeah, I think the 2 words that define this episode are pain and depression, just utter depression.
Cue that Clay GIF.
Yeah. And it was not my favorite and I put like my favorite penultimate episode. This is definitely in the top right now, but my favorite still is Loki. Loki is still my favorite of the penultimate episode for Disney Plus. But again, not, you know, this brought something different to it. And I really enjoyed just kind of going into the depths of what like we've seen, Brenda shared with me a few one or two TikToks of people who are very forthcoming in the sense of they suffer from DID, and they've been very impressed by the portrayal of DID in the show. And so it delves into the idea of what trauma does to a person and the definition of what trauma is. So, but yeah, this definitely pulled at your heartstrings and made me definitely go back and rewatch it just to kind of understand what that is for a person and understand Mark. But yeah, it was very good. S Bubs in the chat. I've been bringing Ash versus Evil Dead. The same trope happened there too. I feel like it's a lot more common than I thought. Yeah. So, but yeah. So, any more non-spoiler thoughts before we take our first ad break and get in all the fun spoilers?
No, let's get to it.
All right. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud. So, I'll give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So this, I would have to say, the series has done a very good job of basically just picking up where we left off. Like, there's not much in a sense of like, oh, okay, a few hours pass, things like that. We pick up right where we left off with. We get, first we actually begin the episode with a flashback of Mark getting screamed at by his mother and that it's all his fault. But this was actually the first episode when we get to the Marvel fanfare that it's not any kind of different song. It actually is the Marvel fanfare. I think that's the first time we've had it for this episode, for this series.
I think you're right, actually. I think you're just trying to think about
it. I think you are right. Like, I've heard that fanfare probably 20 times in the last week and a half to 2 weeks as I'm doing my Doctor Strange prep. But so I'm like, it's running together, but I think you're right.
Yeah. But nothing to really read into that. But, having seeing the mother, and I had said that they'd both been cast. This has got to be the episode they get brought in. May not be the only episode they get brought in necessarily, but having that established what this episode is going to be about, I thought, okay, this is we're going to get some really deep introspection of what's going on.
Is this a comic thing too? Like, what happens to his brother? Speaking to you guys, has that ever happened in the comics or?
Yes. Well, okay. Yeah, we've got some kind of comic stuff that happens with the brother, but we're not sure exactly if they're going to pick up that thread later on.
I mean, in all things Marvel does, like, they're drawing inspiration from, they're not directly adapting. Mm-hmm. But like, if nothing else, the broad strokes are there.
Yeah. Well, Layla, for example, has bits of another character, and
Marlene,
the new character.
Yep. So yeah, after we see that, we pick up where Mark and Steven are still screaming at Teruet, and then Mark is screaming at Harrow, who says it's all a fantasy, and he's having a very difficult time grasping reality. They are actually in he mentions where they're actually at. The location is Putnam, which is the hospital from Lemire's run. So they're continuing the callbacks to that. And Harrow denies shooting Mark. He's, go back to when Steven and Arthur walk. Now, I want to point this out because I thought this was very interesting. Go back to where Steven is being walked around by Arthur in the compound, like when he first goes around
in episode 2.
Yeah, in episode 2. And it's very much how a doctor or a tour guide at a psychiatric facility is walking around the new patient saying, here's what you can do. Here's what you do. Like introducing the people, eating the food with the patients to say that so it's safe. Like it's thinking back on that, saying, wow, it's again another questioning of the reality. What did we actually see? I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, when this episode finished, my wife looks at me and it's like, if they made this entire show in his head and the entire MCU finishes this way, I'm going to be pissed. I'm just like, we have tickets to a movie next week. Right?
I know, yeah.
Like the sequel to your favorite movie comes out in a couple more months. Like, You're good. Don't worry.
Yeah. but heavy spoilers brought up this other thing there. The Aeneid, that meeting they compared it to almost like a doctor being accused by a patient for neglect. And 9 times out of 10, the panel is going to side with the doctor because you're
Mhm.
not going to side with the patient. But it's like, man, that is also even a deep pull.
Are the roles of the people on the panel to observe the entire world? Because I'd be a little bit pissed at them if they let it slide as well.
They're cowards. That's what I'm saying. They're cowards.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
But yeah, they do a lot of playing back and forth in this episode. It almost got to a point where I had to kind of go back and forth, making sure that what we were actually seeing.
There was a couple times I actually questioned myself while watching us. I actually said, "Is this actually in his mind?" Like,
Mhm.
it really made me question, which I enjoy because I didn't think it going in. I was like, "There's nothing they're going to make me think that this is like this trope is going to work on me," and it actually started to work on me. And I'm like, "I've seen this 5 times before in episodes. What
Mhm.
am I doing here?"
Well, and it kind of went multiple levels deep, right? Like we were already thinking, like at the end of last week when Mark finds Steven and they're in this hospital, like, okay, was this all in their head? Is he
Mhm.
just imagining all this? And then it comes out to another level with seemingly a different version of Harrow, a different version of Mark, or they refer to him as Mark, but I actually wonder if that was somebody else who was
Mhm.
in control of the body at that point. And it's just a whole nother level of it. And so we definitely have some Inception going on or something. And yeah, I can see where people could kind of lose track of what level are they at right now.
What
Yeah,
was
and
that movie with Bruce Willis where he
12
went back?
Monkeys.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Where he was stuck in the insane asylum for because he went back too far. I kind of love those stories.
Yeah, so as Mark starts freaking out again, he's injected with a sedative, goes back to him in his mind, with him and Steven and Tarawood, who tells him that they're dead. And I just want to point out, remember how Loki was dead in episode 4?
Mm-hmm.
So notice also how Steven is in dark clothing and Mark is usually the one dressing in white.
Yes, I did. Which, practicality made it easy for us to know for sure which one we were looking at, but
True.
it's the second you watch them move,
Mhm.
like you know who it is.
But yeah, Tarawood informs them that they're in the Duat, which is the Egyptian underworld. She mentions the ancestral plane. So again, call out to Black Panther, and she calls it gorgeous. And things are put in place to resemble a familiar environment because this is very difficult for a human mind to grasp. And so Mark is having trouble, so he busts through the doors, and they see they're on a big ship riding the dunes, surrounded by statues. Ancient Egyptians believed that they would be shuttled across the river Styx by Charon, and that boat. Go back to episode 1. That boat is prominently featured in the goldfish tank.
Missed that.
You're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask here, like she mentions, like basically says like there's intersecting areas and realms for all the different religions, and if
Mhm.
there are hells and heavens and purgatories, mentions like was it the astral plane or no the ancestral plane?
Yeah,
that
the
she
ancestral
mentioned?
plane. Yeah. Mhm.
And so I didn't realize this, but I guess Bast, the Panther god, is also like one of the Egyptian gods apparently,
Yes.
and has connections to Khonshu, at least in the comics and stuff.
Mhm.
We think not in this series, but going down the line that there may be some sort of connection that we see with Black Panther and Moon Knight in this through their respective gods.
It would be an interesting mention. I could see like an interaction in a sense of mentioning Khonshu. I don't know about like them being together per se, but I could see kind of a mention of Khonshu or vice versa.
Probably at the end of the retreat in 2033. Probably by the end of the plans.
Yeah, at the end of the 10-year.
seems like
Yeah.
it seems like it's starting to line a little.
Hopefully, if there is any connections there, it doesn't happen in Thor: Love and Thunder with Gore the God Bashir.
Yeah, but you do bring out a good point, Brent, in the sense of how what Tarawa kind of says is not necessarily poo-pooing or stopping the idea of other religious beliefs and what they hold true in the sense of the afterworld or their even belief structure. I thought that was very interesting to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
So she says that that she brings up that she basically goes into their chest, pulls a kind of a Temple of Doom thing, and takes out both their hearts, and it puts it on a scale and weighs it to a feather to see if they are going to be their souls balanced and they can go to the river, the field of reeds, or they're not, and their soul is going to be like trapped in the dunes and left it. Now, ancient Egyptians believe that death is not an ending, but it's the next step of an eternal journey. So it kind of continues on that idea.
I have a question for you guys. Something that I've noticed when I was watching with the scales. The scales were acting the exact same way they did when Hera grabbed Mark,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and you could see him shake. So, which makes me think again that this might be all in Mark's mind because of that happened. So, I could be wrong, but it's just something like the scales shaking the exact same way they did on the tattoo, kind of
Mhm.
just sent off some bells to me.
What did you all think of like that idea, that the whole thing of balance? Because this whole series has just been about balance.
Well, like you said, like I clocked the connection with Hero Scales, and I just thought that almost gave like a credibility to what Hera was doing, because now there's allegedly the power of this one god over here through Hera and the power of another god, both with their different versions of scales and balance, and they're both wild and back and forth, and they're not balanced out. And so I just thought it kind of almost gave credibility to all of this. I don't necessarily see it as further evidence that it's not real. I think this part Mark is very much going through, but I see where the question could be asked.
I will say that I think it actually makes him seem like more of a mayor of Crazy Town because Mark had the opportunity to balance his scales, showing that people can balance their scales before the time is up. Whereas he judges them, and if your scales aren't balanced, you're done. There's no
Mhm.
redeeming or like coming to an understanding of
Mhm.
why.
Yeah.
It's just over. So it kind of made him more villainous for me.
Yeah. No, now what did you all think of like we got the shock of being introduced to Terrawit. What did you think of Terrawit just throughout the episode? Was it too goofy for you? Did it take you out of it, or did it just kind of play into this idea of what's in Mark's head?
Did you say too goofy? Come on now, like this is like we've seen so many different things. Korg, and there's so many different things in the MCU. Like this is the
Is
MCU. Thanos.
is Korg the poster
I,
child for
I,
not being goofy?
First thing, first thing that came to mind. But
First, you never can say Korg is a gift, and it's a gift that keeps on giving. We
some
respect.
people might think he's goofy, but
Well,
there'll
they're
never be anything as bad as Bebo. So
whoa, shots fired.
I didn't take a second glance to be honest with you, Chris.
Bebo is life. We must
I just
remember.
ran with it after the scream, and that was it. I
You
never
know,
took a second little glance at the hippo.
the voice did take a little getting used to, just like Khonshu's voice took, because like neither of them sound like what in my head I would imagine like the voice of a god to sound like, right? Like neither of them sound that way, but it seemed to fit her character just fine,
Mhm.
and visually stunning. I thought she looked incredible. I've seen one or two complaints about the CGI of it, and I'm like, I cannot get on this train with you at all. Sometimes it's like, I don't agree, but I see at least why you feel that way. I don't even get that. I thought it. The only part that I thought looked even remotely questionable was the actual two hearts on the scale. Those did look like 3D printed pieces of plastic, but everything else, like about the hippo, it's like no. I thought she looked incredible.
I mean, like I said, I just kind of accepted the whole idea. Like you said, the voice took a little bit against you, but once you kind of saw the dynamics in her personality, it fit. It did fit at that point. But as she sees the scales keeping going back and forth very quickly, she basically says, "You need to go out there and figure out what you're hiding from each other and sort this out, or else you're both gone. You're
And
not gonna."
at this point, I thought they were missing one. I thought they only had 2/3 of their heart at this point.
Yep. That could have been good, and we unfortunately did not formally get introduced to our third personality. I say formally because I think we all think that we did get another glimpse of our third personality, but we'll
Mhm.
get to that later. So Mark they go back in, they sees all these rooms that depict his life in different ways. And Steven's asking lots of questions about his childhood scenes they were seeing. Steven asks, like, what's this street? And Mark kind of deflects again. And they end up entering a cafe full of dead bodies. And Mark reveals that these are all the people he's killed as Moon Knight. And as he starts explaining this, the scales start slowing down. Not incredibly, but a stark difference from as wild as they were before.
Enough for Steven to notice.
Hmm.
Yeah, enough for Steven to notice and basically tip off of, oh, we need to be honest with each other. We need to share our memories. And while Steven didn't seem to notice, I at least was clocking that because I've questioned who's the real. Like at the beginning of the show, it's like who is the MCU going to make the real one, right? Like kind of know in the comics
Primary.
who the primary. Yes, that's the better way to put it. It's like we're not seeing Steven's memories here. Like this is all related to Mark. I'm like that should be a tip off, Steven, but no, it still took you by surprise later.
Oh yeah. So then in the room we see a mysterious child show up and run off, and Steven goes after him while Mark is trying to stop him because Mark has a good idea of who that is. And Steven follows them through the doors. And we see Mark as a child with his family, his younger brother Roro, whose name is Randall Spector, while his mom Wendy is grilling and his father's building a small little playhouse. Now in the comics, Randall joined the CIA and became an assassin. Mark became Moon Knight, and Randall became Hatchet Man before he turned into Shadow Knight. Shadow Knight is a very haunting character. There may be potential with him showing up later, since as we get into, we don't see a body of Roro, and that could really screw with Mark's mind if they decide to ever introduce Shadow Knight into this and make it his brother.
I gotta think that's possible at this point. Like they purposely did not show the body, right? Like they're leaving themselves the out if they want it.
They're also giving themselves season 2 material to go forth with this show, possibly.
Yeah,
maybe.
So we see Roro drawing a goldfish with one fin. Another callback. Mark says later's gators, which Steven has said in episode 1. As they walk to the cave, they play Dr. Grant and Roser, which are the characters we met in Tombbuster. Steven follows them in the steps on a skeleton of a hummingbird that has the same head of Conchu. And then we see Steven enter the cave leading to that which floods. And then we hear Roro passes away drowning.
Tragic.
Pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it sucks that we see Roro in essentially what Mark believes is the people that he's killed is his fault. So we know that he was a kid and you can't control that. Like that's just an accident. I'm speaking from even personal experience with my younger brother. He actually followed me down a gigantic hill one time and fell and just went like he's so close to actually hitting a gigantic rock, and he wouldn't be here today. And that's just an accident of I had no control. He just followed behind me. My parents were pretty disappointed in me. They weren't like, what will happen to Mark disappointed or anything like that. But they say you got to watch out for your younger brother, look out for him. And you can tell why Mark is going to take it personally, but it's just so tragic that the whole drowning thing that I hate even the concept of drowning. It gives me goosebumps even thinking about it. So I was actually a little terrified through this scene.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, it definitely, this is the beginning of his trauma that it will continue to get compounded because, we flash to Roro Shiva where Mark visits seeing him as a kid come down the stairs, and his mother is basically saying, why was it him? Why did she take him? Why did she take basically Mark? And then she sees him come downstairs and yells, why is he here? Blames him for Roro's death. This episode has a lot of Mark's Jewish heritage there. And it's a much bigger part of the comics. And this has been getting, since Oscar Isaac's casting, a number of members of the Jewish community were not happy with Oscar Isaac's because he is his heritage. I don't know what percentage at that point, but it's a lower amount of he's not full Jewish heritage, not a practicing Jewish of the faith at that point, according to people that are quote unquote in the know. I'm just going on people that say as such, but they also are complaining that this is the most we've seen of the Jewish faith portrayed in Mark in the show. I can't say they're wrong. I can't say necessarily that it's not necessarily there. It's just how they decided to move forward with this and focus on other aspects of it. I think I would be as a fan of the comics, as a fan of the character, I'd be disappointed with no portrayal of this. But for what we got, it was, I could understand where people who are of the Jewish faith that look towards this character in a very positive light would still be very disappointed that this is all they're going to get as any kind of depiction of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not going to speak to whether or not it was enough. Like I'm not Jewish. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not for me to say. All I know is I saw it and I said, "Oh, cool. They did at least pull at least something from his Jewish background, from the character's Jewish background. That's cool to see, right? Like that, I'm glad that was included. I'm not gonna pretend to speak to whether or not it's enough. I don't know what enough is.
No,
I will say, as a general audience member, it was enough to put it on to me that was his faith.
Mhm.
And if you're really passionate about that, like, I don't want to say that you didn't get enough there, but you could say that Mark went down this hole of a terrible life because he didn't get like focus more on his religion and his faith and use that to guide him. You can like maybe like headcanon that to yourself of he got himself in this situation because of that. But I like Brent said, I can't speak on how much representation is there and if it's enough for people that want to see it.
But again, I can, if those that I had seen, they're upset about it. Again, can't say that you're wrong. You know, at that point, it is unfortunate at that point that you expected a little bit more, a lot more out of it. But we flash to him celebrating his birthday, and his dad's down there, and mom outright refuses to come down to celebrate him because doesn't want to be anywhere near him. And then we go to a next birthday, and she does come downstairs, and she's drinking and just basically rags on Mark the whole time, and he runs off. So we see the beginning of the trauma building and building to develop his DID.
I have a question for you guys.
Mhm.
Considering I'm a co-host of DC Alliance, who's a worse mom, her or Billy Batson's mom in Shazam?
I mean,
It's Billy Batson's
Ugh.
mom. It's not even close. It's
Yeah.
hard. I would say it's hard to compare just because
they both suck.
One had a big trauma though.
well,
One had a
well,
big trauma happen to her.
that's the thing. I don't want to put it on necessarily because I never will. Hopefully, I will never know the day if I ever lose my children. At that point, that is those friends that I do have that lost a child. I can understand. I can see how, I'm not saying what the mother was doing was right, but I can understand in the sense of that reaction at that point. But again, I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying it was right. I just said I can understand how someone could feel that way.
To me, Billy Batson's mom was a horrible person. She abandoned her child, just straight up abandoned it. I don't, maybe arguably when he went back and found her, but at least as a little kid, she wasn't, at least that we saw, mentally and physically abusive. Mark's mom was mentally and physically abusive. And yes, she went through a major trauma, and absolutely, but she needed serious help to even begin to try and cope with that. I'm not saying, I mean, for me, bottom line is like she abused him. Like she straight up abused him.
Completely wrong. Absolutely.
I don't know that I can judge who was quote unquote worse.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say it might be different ways, but they both suck. You know, you have an abuser and you have child abandonment. Neither of them are winning any Moms of the Year awards.
I thought this would be a lot funnier, and then I realized like the whole topic about child abuse and all that, and I'm like, why did I even ask that question? Really? In reality?
You would.
Such a DC person getting
Yeah, of
dark.
course, it's dark.
But yeah, no, I mean the abuse unexcusable at that point. But when it's traced to the mental disorder that she ends up suffering due to the death of her youngest son, again, not justifying it, but you can see the pathway what she led down at that point.
Well, she doesn't blame Mark. She'll blame herself for letting her two young kids run off by themselves and playing caves that they've played in a lot of times before.
Yep.
So if you you got to look inward. If you're not going to look inward, you're going to project onto your kid.
So Mark ends up leaving, cut to the desert where he details how he got dishonorably discharged from the military, joins up with Bushman, tried to stop him from killing the archaeologist, and how he was left for dead right before he killed himself. And Khonshu offers him a deal, and we see the first transformation.
Really cool scene. Pretty much right out of how I've seen it depicted in the comics. He's dead or dying. Khonshu offers him a deal. He's supposed to be a god, but it sure came across like he was making a deal with the devil.
Mm-hmm. Cut back to the boat where we see purple streaks raining down. So dark dimension magic is at play, signaling Harrow is freeing Emmett, who is condemning souls all over the place, because why not? Terowitz starts to steer the boat towards the Gate of Osiris and basically saying your time is running out. You really need to start balancing the scales if you ever want to have a chance of returning to the land of the living. Mark refuses to go back, and it cuts back to Harrow's office. And this is where we start hearing and sensing that that's not the voice of Mark nor Steven. It's a very different, very distinctive voice.
Go on.
That's the way kind of the accent, very, I want to say very New York, very deep New York accent at that point, and almost to the point of like it almost had a little Colin Farrell Penguin kind of gangster mobster kind of things. Like, what are y'all? What's all this going on here?
That might be because of how many times Snell throws that little clip in our chat too.
Why are you throwing me that?
I hear that all the time.
No, I think I agree with you though. Like, it does feel like this is somebody else.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
So again, we both tried to say we were going to see it because we saw that sarcophagus Strowman trying to get out, and they didn't acknowledge it. So, what's that?
That was Mephisto's sarcophagus, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's just still trying to get out into the MCU. One day, next time, baby. So, but that is kind of where hearing it is just like, here we go again. I pointed out last week that there was also a slip in the accent too, so I don't think it's done as a mistake. We've only got one of our episodes left, so let's see that other person. Now, here's the thing: if for some reason we don't see this third personality, we're all just Mephistoing this idea, I'll be a little disappointed. I'll admit it. I'll be a little disappointed if we don't see that third personality, because that won't make any sense, especially when they say back in that episode where Mark didn't do that. Steven did not kill those guys. Just to lay that red herring out there without addressing, that'll be very disappointing.
I think we will. I think we have to see something to that. My big concern is there time to introduce a third personality? Is there time? Is it?
It should have been done earlier.
Seemingly, Steven is gone, and now Jake comes into his place. Do we have a rule of two thing going on here, where there's always got to be two of them?
There's your Star Wars reference.
There it is.
The trifecta.
That's my big concern with it. Now, I could see maybe a credit scene introducing him, and somewhere in the future we're going to pick up with him. The problem there is, all reports are Oscar Isaac isn't signed on for another season or a movie. Now, I believe he is signed on for future appearances, but if those are in ensemble pieces, is there enough time to explore the Jake character?
Can I ask you, maybe Jake is the one that worked with the other characters like Blade and was it Midnight Suns? What are they calling them? I don't know. What's the group that fights?
Midnight Suns. Yeah.
So maybe like he's the one that associates with him, because he doesn't exactly have to be like he is in the comics. They can do some changes with his personality.
I think, especially at the end of this, as we get towards the end of this episode, Mark is the dominant one. Mark is primary. Mark is meant to be the primary, and Mark is who we're going to be our main person going forward. Doesn't mean we won't see Steven and or this third personality again, but Mark is going to be at the forefront again.
I think you're right about that.
Well, if you're not a zombie, it's a good chance you're at the forefront.
True. You're not wrong. So Harrow's going back and saying he can't just sedate patients unless there's extreme cases. Harrow ponders if Mark created Steven to hide from all the bad things he did, and if Steven created Mark to punish the world for his mother's actions. And we see actually the two Tomb Buster figures on Harrow's desk at that moment. So again, always questioning, but we go back to Mark's room where he's hiding from his mother, and he keeps saying it's not his mother since she's displaying another personality. So she's suffering through DID and gets into his room and physically abuses him again. Just terrible to see. But Mark shifts into Steven's body in the mirror in order to hide himself from his mother. So that moment is where we see him fully develop the DID.
Yeah, basically does it as a protective coping mechanism to
I have
try
a question
and
for you
spare
guys.
himself.
I have a question for you guys. Since Steven can't remember any of this, is there any chance that Steven created another personality in the third guy? Jake, is it? To suffer the
Jake
abuse?
is the third one. And I mean, I don't think we could rule it out that the split could have happened from Steven into Jake. I mean,
Jake is the one where he's got no inhibitions. He will go after. He'll ask the pretty girl out. He will beat up the people that think, stop debating this. We're just gonna kill him. You know.
Well, one could argue that Jake was the one that asked out the girl in the first episode.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
A lot of people think.
Yeah. But so we get Steven takes over at that point and saying like, no, my mother's not dead. And Harrow's just like, oh, I can call her right now. And he actually says, speaking of the tour guide, he says the name of the receptionist. They get Mark's mom on the phone. That's the same name of the tour guide that was asked out in episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so he's getting ready to put the mother on the phone. And then that's when Steven eventually, accepts before he gets on the phone. He then accepts that his mother is dead at that point. And then it cuts to the past and Mark basically standing outside his parents' place after his mother died, basically refusing to go into the home for his mother Shiva, and which is a period of mourning after a funeral in the Jewish faith. And then he breaks down, goes into the Steven personality and shows Steven is made up. And that is very much like jarring for Steven to see. He's like, wait a minute. I'm not the main person. You're not, like, you're the main person. You're the primary. It's like it is jarring for him to see, especially when he starts immediately going onto the phone talking to his mother.
Sad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you think that? So, like I said earlier in the show, I was like, I wonder who's going to be the primary, right? But at this point, like, I'm already positive, like, it's Mark. Mark is the primary.
Yeah,
he's the one that seems to know the most of what's going on. He's the original, right? To Steven, this was a big reveal. Do you think that this was supposed to be a reveal to the audience?
I think. And Travis, you put yourself as GA just for not understanding, but you also live this stuff like we do and seen a lot of this stuff. So I'd rather, how did you feel?
I'm just trying to think here now. It didn't surprise me. It wasn't something that took me aback. I kind of was expecting it, to be honest with you, from what we've seen in the episode, but not anything to give me any previous knowledge from it. So it wasn't a shock or anything. I knew, like Brent said, because he explained everything and knew, it seemed like he knew everything that was on the go all the time. I kind of knew it. And then even to start this episode, he's the one that's hiding memories from Steven. So that kind of confirmed it for me that he was the main person throughout this and kind of knowledge. But I had my suspicions because, like Brent said, he had the most handle on what was going on with Moon Knight. I thought maybe there was a personality before Mark, but if I was going to bet any money after the first episode, I would have put my money on Mark.
I would say there would be some doubts, like going back and forth with some general audience members at that point. I don't know this would confirm it at that point. So there would be a shock. I don't know. I don't know if it was a big shock. It would be a big shock, but I think it would. There was doubts on who was really in charge.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, fair.
But so the ship eventually reaches the gate, but it's closed and the scales are not balanced. So these zombies start jumping on the deck and start trying to take Mark and Steven away. And Steven is getting kind of getting his fisticuffs and is able to beat them back, and gets to a point where he has to jump at one of the zombies from taking Mark overboard, knocks him down, but in turn he goes overboard, and he basically dies. Gets basically turned into kind of zombie stone.
Man, that was
and
sad.
That sucked.
it was, because even Mark's screaming, like, turn around, I gotta get him, and then he kind of freezes up, and the scales are balanced, and Mark is transported into the field of reeds, and that's where the episode ends.
The scales balancing, I think, hurts the Jake theory. I think that hurts the Jake theory.
But
The fact that there's two hearts as well. Because if there was a third, like if they were balancing the whole, wouldn't there be a third heart there? If there was a third, because if Steven has a heart, why doesn't Jake have a heart if they're both personalities from Earth?
But maybe because Mark and Steven aren't fully aware of Jake. And I think that's the only reason why.
Reasonable.
It to your point, Brent, yes, it does hurt the theory, but they don't understand enough about what the capabilities of this third personality, and they're not fully aware of it. So there is not real conflict there.
There's also a theological question there about souls, especially with Steven, because it's like, when Steven was split off, did they become two separate souls?
Brent, that kind of feeds into the question I have for you guys. Is there a chance, let's say Mark gets out of this and he gets scared or gets a problem he doesn't want to deal with, can he just create Steven again? Is that a possibility?
I mean, sure, it's a possibility. I don't know.
All in the game saying Layla already confirmed that Mark was the primary early on in the season, was supposed to be a reveal to Steven, not the audience. No, true at that point, but I would just say, like, there was so much kind of missed, even though you're right, like Layla is being married to Mark and things like that, but it's almost in the sense of, what are we really believing too? It's this constant kind of saying, who do we believe? What is their doubt? What is actually in his head? Is Layla really real in the way that we're seeing in the show?
But doesn't Steven mention too that he still thought he was primary? Like he thought he was in control? I thought he mentioned that once during this episode when everything was getting revealed to him and everything was starting to shatter. I thought he did think that like he was still the one in control.
Hey, you think it until it's shattered, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So I think we have a few questions related to this episode, or comments.
Yes, we did. Let me pull those up real quick. First up from Brock, will we see Jake next episode? Does he exist in the MCU? So, final prediction, yes or no, we see that third personality by the time we're recording next week.
Going to say yes, we're going to see him, and yes, he exists in the MCU because we've already seen him once before, at least.
Yeah, I'll say yes. I'll say yes.
I'll agree. Right now I'm feeling like it's got a credit scene written all over it, but one way or the other, I do think we're going to see him.
Yeah.
Jeremy says, I have a question. Why do they got to do us like that? No spoilers, but for anyone who's seen it, but damn that ending. I mean, they like to make you hurt, that's why, I guess.
Made me feel emotional.
What did Vision say about what's that?
No, we're not going to go there, Chris. No.
What is
no
grief
tears.
if not love persevering?
Yes, there we go. Thank you.
Get out of this today.
From WandaVision's greatest episode.
Yep.
And then finally from Dallin, do we think Hunter's Moon will be introduced to the MCU? Whom is a new character introduced in the current Moon Knight run, if I'm not mistaken. I know he's in it. Yeah. I believe that's his first appearance.
It just kind of all depends on if we're going to get a solo project again for Moon Knight. The thing about him is, like,
he is basically like the sort of like the evil version of the hero, right? Like the same idea, the same abilities and powers.
Yeah.
Moon Knight is the fist of Khonshu, while as Hunter Moon says, he has two fists. You have two fists, and the Hunter's Moon is another one. So
My
definitely
suggestion:
check out the current Moon Knight run if you haven't read it, because it's pretty interesting.
sit back and enjoy the machine. Never wrong. It'll whatever's going to happen, it'll be right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so next week, final episode of this limited series as they're deeming it. So, but yeah, we will deal with that then and see what is confirmed. So, Brent, sorry, no post credits this week.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought. It's like, oh man, I got that one wrong.
Hey, we both got we're gonna see. We kind of saw Jake. We didn't get confirmed, so we can't. We got partial credit on that.
Yeah, no, I'm taking the L on that one too. I don't think this counts yet.
Didn't you last episode, Chris, say we were going to see this stuff, like the flashbacks of the mercenaries? I thought you and his flashback.
He has called that before. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought maybe it wasn't last episode, but I've been walking the dog and listening to Marvel Alliance, and I'm pretty sure you said that.
I did. I'll say that, but I'm waiting for a bigger gloat. Hopefully next week when it comes to Multiverse of Madness. That's what I really want. That's what I'm hoping for. So, but all right. Well, we will see y'all next week when it comes to the final episode of it. But we'll take our next ad break before we get into some news items from CinemaCon. So, as you know, ladies and gents, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud. Just give that a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So we led off this lovely event of CinemaCon this week with Sony taking the stage and shocked a lot of people. Good or bad, they announced a new Spider-Man spin-off movie, El Muerto. Travis is holding back.
I'm sorry. Like, what are we doing here? Sony, come on.
Deadline reported that Sony has enlisted Latin rapper and Grammy winner Bad Bunny to play Spider-Man character El Muerto, a super-powered wrestler in the comics, in a standalone movie with Sony's Spider-Man universe. This will be the first Latin hero to get his own solo movie in any Marvel franchise. This marks Bad Bunny's third film or TV appearance to date after making a name for himself in the platinum-selling record artist. He's also won 4 Latin Grammy Awards and 2 Grammy Awards. As for El Muerto, the character has made 2 appearances as a superpowered wrestler in Spider-Man Had It Saved from Death. El Muerto, also known as Juan Carlos, was a superpowered wrestler who originally fought Spider-Man in a charity wrestling match in which he nearly unmasked the web slinger before being stung by Spider-Man with a paralyzing poison. After his oppressor, the mystical wrestling god known as El Duardo, came to claim his life, he was saved by Spider-Man, after which the two team up to defeat El Duardo. His father was killed by Eduardo, and he threatened El Muerto with the same fate if he didn't claim a mask and become a wrestling champion. The powers are passed down from generations to generation. The mask that he would wear would kind of be the imbuing of the powers. And this film is set to release January 12th, 2024. There are a lot of thoughts, many thoughts. I'll start off by saying this was not something I would see coming. This was not of any character. I would say, yes, this is the one we need to do. There has to be a reason they're going with this character. And we will get into the representation question in a little bit. I don't like being one of those people who asked for this. I'm not saying there are people clamoring for this. There could be reasons in the sense of whoever wrote this, Bad Bunny, the impact of that, the wrestling community, how they can capitalize on a lot of different things. I will reserve judgment, but I will say that this is not necessarily a character that, after only being in 2 issues, is something that I thought would ever get a movie. But I will wait, and I will, again, it's not. But I'm not the target audience for this. I'm not. So, Will I see it? Sure. I host the show. Of course I'm going to see it. But I did not see this coming.
Travis, what do you think?
I don't even know what to think, to be honest with you. Like Chris said about representation, like I don't want to take a shot at that. I'm sure there are other characters in the staple. I just could you imagine if Sony was the ones that were running the entirety of Marvel and in live action? Like, good God!
Did you know they passed up the chance for
I know.
$25 million?
They only picked out a certain few characters rather than just
again,
money wise. Like
they do, even though yes, it was with Marvel Studios. You can't say that they did not do anything with Homecoming, No Way Home, and Far From Home.
No, I'm just judging them on any of the movies they did without Kevin Feige.
No, I'm just judging them. That's what he's saying.
I'm sorry. It's just this could be the best comic book film ever. Like I'm willing to eat crow, but just coming off the dumpster fire that was Morbius, in terms of financially, I just don't understand. I don't understand how this. That's why I said dumpster fire financially. It was just an average film, but it was a dumpster fire for money. I just don't understand this. Like Miles Morales is just sitting there begging to be used. Like guys, right here. Like guys, hello.
We'll talk about him in a minute.
We'll talk about that. Brent, what are your thoughts?
So I had to Google the character because I didn't remember what he looked like, and I'm like, okay, I do remember him. I've read those issues. I have those issues. I've read those issues. Sure, okay, great. He was also only in 2 of them, so it's not like I remember much about him. I think people need to remember this. One, I'm not exactly a champion for this project. I also don't care because I don't necessarily believe that we're not getting a different movie because this one exists, right? Like if this is the project that this Bad Bunny guy, whom I know nothing about, was interested in, and Sony was interested in him, then that's the project, right? You don't want him doing a character he doesn't want to play. He's interested in this. He feels connection to this character. Fine. If we can have a freaking Ant-Man trilogy, right? And we just had a Morbius movie, and we're getting all these obscure characters. I mean, we just had a Peacemaker series. Are you kidding me? It's like one more obscure character. Who cares? You don't like it? Wait 5 minutes. There's another Marvel project coming out. Not to mention the DC projects. Not to mention the Image projects and the other stuff. Like, there's so much comic content right now. The thing that blows my mind is that people seem genuinely mad. Yeah. And while I think there's a valid reason for that we're going to hear about in a minute, most of the people I see that don't have the credentials to fall in that category of anger.
Yeah, again, all 3 of us, gentlemen, right here, we're white.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
and it's one of those things that for us to say certain things and try to pass off certain like thing, like we'll say this, but again, we recognize who we are and what we look like at that point. So our commentary on this only goes so far. Our credibility and credentials on this only goes so far.
Can I just say one thing, Chris?
Yeah.
If this is different, if honestly you tell me MCU's in this project, I'm not batting an eye. I think it's just because of Sony and Sony's. No, I trust Marvel. It's just me personally. I trust them far more than Sony, just for their ability to carry out a project. So that's why if Marvel announced this as a Disney Plus show or a movie, I'd watch the whole thing and I wouldn't bat an eye because they earn my trust. Whereas I sometimes, like Venom 1 was okay. I'm like, okay, Sony, I'll give you a chance. And then I go into their next thing, didn't enjoy it. Then their next thing, didn't enjoy it. So I'm very hesitant when they're going on a project.
I'll even claim the thing is like Morbius is not necessarily on the same level as this El Muerto in the sense of Morbius is quote unquote more known character. Venom.
Oh, not
known.
even close.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not even counting like the issue counts. I'm just saying like this is a Sony project that they have to develop an original story. So in a sense of that, I can't say that I don't necessarily trust or not trust Sony because this is a very much an original property for that they really do get to craft, in a sense.
It's, like I remember like with the Eternals coming out talking about how it's like the Eternals are pretty obscure. So they have a lot of room and a lot of leeway to make changes to these characters that people maybe they wouldn't give for a character like Spider-Man, like Iron Man, somebody who is more known, who's, like Iron Man was at least B tier, right? So you still got to get the majority of it. This character is a blank page. Like they can do whatever they want with him, any movie they want with him. And if it ends up being garbage, then okay, people are gonna forget about it. It's just gonna become another punchline. If it happens to be even halfway decent, well then cool. There's another new character that's gonna get some exposure, get some prop up. I don't have it in me to be mad. Like, am I super thrilled and excited? Oh my god, El Muerto, I've been dying. No, of course not. But I'm gonna go watch it. Let's be honest.
We are not the target demographic for this. There is a reason something happened with the script. Like we said, Bad Bunny. They wanted Bad Bunny. They wanted this idea. He was into it. Good for him. Good for Sony saying we're gonna try this. They're not idiots. Despite what people think at that point for this decision, it's like they're not gonna put it out there. They understand that this has a lot in the sense of saying, well, didn't see that coming, but we did get a message from our buddy fanboy Clay, and I did ask him before because he has very kind of specifics, and he said he's cool with us reading this before he gets to his couple of questions, but he said, just want to make this small statement for tonight's show. I don't represent all Hispanics, but as someone who is Hispanic and wants more representation of superhero genre, going with the biggest no-name supervillain as your new big name in a film series is a big slap in the face to me. As many people are now doing, Google searching Hispanic Spider-Man would have given you better well-known or at least well-liked or at least liked characters. Sony's villainverse needs to stop at Venom because he's the only villain that has carried his own solo title for longer than a miniseries. Superior Spider-Man doesn't count because that name Spider-Man is in it. Like you said, you pointed out, there's Miles Morales, there's Miguel O'Hara. Both of them have not been in live action. Okay, there it is. It's not even live action. They could have chosen them. We've technically seen Miguel, even though it was just in an end credit scene. We've seen Miguel. He's going to have a whole movie with Miles at that point. So they've been there, and I get saying, oh, they should have done this. We don't know what is going on with those characters necessarily, and it leads to Clay's questions into why is Sony afraid to introduce Miles as their own Sony Spider-Man? Has the MCU called dibs on him already? That is a very good question in the sense of how has this already been divided up of who controls the next introduction of Miles, Miguel, any kind of spider character that even hints around these two or three.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even don't understand how it's not a thing, to be honest with you. It's very frustrating, especially when you see how successful Into the Spider-Verse was. I don't mean financially, but just hit with audiences, especially after it came out on Netflix. And then you see No Way Home basically take a lot of what they did and use that and make it successful. You're like, guys, there's so many. You want representation, put it in something where everyone's going to see it, rather than that movie we're talking about. Doubt it's going to do well. Like you said, it could be the best movie. It could be wrong. But I'd go with something much better that more people would see. You put Spider-Man on the front of it, like a lot of people are going to come just for Spider-Man. And then you're going to get people exposed to like the culture you want to show for Miguel, or the culture you want to show for Miles, and representation like that. They'll get to see it better. Like the better chance of them seeing it, better chance of general audience seeing it, better chance of everybody seeing it. It's frustrating to me. And if there is a deal already done dividing up, Sony's even worse at making deals and managing their properties than I ever thought. If they would say, yeah, we're not going to do it. Well, here, take this one or that one. It would be very silly in my opinion.
Yeah, S Bubs, before Brent, you jump in, it says I'm Latino, and I agree with Clay. There's just better characters to use if you want to start strong with representation.
I agree with that. I agree with that statement. Yeah. There are better characters to use besides El Muerto. Okay. I hope I'm wrong about this. I do. I hope I'm wrong about this. But let's just, put on my Sony hat and say I'm an executive for Sony Pictures. Here's my thoughts. Into the Spider-Verse was a very successful introduction to Miles Morales. The Spider-Man game, especially the Miles chapter, I don't know game terminology, so the Miles chapter, a successful thing for boosting the Miles character. They've also been boosting him in animation. We've seen him in several different animated series. They are definitely propping up Miles, so I will push back that they are afraid to use him. We don't know the plans regarding what Feige and Pascal have worked out for the future of Spider-Man in the MCU, other than both executives have said they're talking about it. They are in talks. They have a plan. They're working on it. We don't know where that falls, and no formal deal has been announced yet. If I'm Sony Pictures, I am not putting a live-action Spider-Man named Miles Morales out there until the Spider-Verse trilogy is done. Animation is, rightly or wrong, I think all of us would agree wrong, is looked down upon as far as live action versus animation goes. And if you put a live action Miles out there, I think that's going to take away from the animated Miles.
Yeah.
But if you use the animated Miles to help prop up, and keep in mind, if I remember right, it did less than 400 million at the box office. So it wasn't exactly a slam dunk, but it was huge on Netflix. It was huge on Netflix. It won an Oscar. The sequel is going to have better results. It's going to do better because now all these people who have seen it for the first time on Netflix, I wish I had seen that in the theaters, right? I mean, how many times have you seen that? I wish I had seen that in the theaters. Tons of people felt that way. Now they're going to get their chance.
Yeah.
And then you do Beyond the Spider-Verse, the third Spider-Verse movie whose name just got redone. Now you've got 3 movies where Miles has been built up. He's big. Now promote him up to what, I'm not saying I feel this way, but what Sony probably would view as the big leagues where the big money is to live action. Is it the right train of thought? I don't know. But I think if I'm Sony, that's the only reasonable explanation to me that I can think of. In my opinion, if they wanted to do a Hispanic character that they have the license to, it should not have been Miles. It should not have been Miguel. It should have been Anya Corazon. Aranya or Spider-Girl, depending on which she's going by at the time. But it's a Hispanic spider character that lets you nobody knows who El Muerto is. That's not going, that name is not going to get anything out there. But you put Spider-Girl in the name, that's going to get butts and seats. And you still get to have a Hispanic representation by doing that. If that was their goal, that's who I would have personally gone with. I cannot speak to S-Bub's or Clay's experience. I'm not Hispanic. If they feel like this is bad and horrible or a slap in the face, I respect that.
Yeah. Again, they can say that at that point. On the game question is, who's the next actor from the Bullet Train movie after Aaron Taylor Johnson, Bad Bunny to get a Sony Marvel movie? Brad Pitt.
He was in Deadpool.
Yes.
Deadpool 2, anyway.
3 seconds.
He said Sony. He said Sony.
Well, that's true. That's true.
As Bub's saying, although I'll contradict myself by saying that Mando is one of my favorite characters ever, and he was a new creation. But I guess that's different since most of the characters are made up for movie show for Star Wars and mostly aren't adapted from a comic or book. Again, we can beat this dead horse over and over again. Could they, eye the beholder, could they have chosen someone, a quote unquote better known comic book character as the first one? Yes, they could have. They didn't. And this is where they're staking their hat on. Like it or not, it as we've said before, we did not see this coming. We were not expecting this. At least the 3 of us on the show, we are not the target demographic for this. But we're just gonna have to wait and see exactly. Sony may have a big hit on their hands, and we don't know it, and we'll eat our words gladly, or it's another misfire.
One thing, when talking about crappy Spider-Man villains, I will not take any slander for the Spot. I'm tired of it. He got great power set, and I see people throw slander at him. I was in top 10 terrible Spider-Man villains, and no, he works well with Spider-Man, not on his own, but yeah. I have to speak on that.
I'm with you, Travis. So this movie, it comes out in January 2024, right?
Mm-hmm.
As of right now, that's the data. So there's 600, a little over 600 days until this movie comes out. Start your countdown now. I added it to my countdown, so I do have the countdown. But
Yes.
regardless, this movie may not happen, guys. This movie may not actually happen. S-Bubs, where's the Big Wheel movie? That's ridiculous. Obviously, the Big Wheel movie is when they cross over with the Fast and Furious #family. But Big Wheel, that's
$1 million a day. $1
You
million
think if
a day.
Craven isn't successful, they'll scrap their ideas
Nope.
for this?
No,
or are they just
I don't.
going like,
No,
"Ah."
No, I
No.
don't.
No.
They are committed, and they will not scrap their projects.
Craven
No.
has to bomb for the next things to change.
And Morbius did not bomb. Morbius made money.
Morbius is a bump in the road.
Yeah.
But if Craven is more in the realm of Venom, that's full speed ahead for him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Money talks, and as long as they're making money, they're not going to really care what the critical response is.
Yep. But let us move on from this to the other part, and quote unquote the more positive that got more of the fandom excited. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 will feature over 200 characters. During CinemaCon 2022, Sony Pictures showcased more details about the sequel to the Spider-Verse. Collider's founders shared that the film's directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller revealed that the upcoming animated movie has 240 characters and takes place in 6 universes.
Was that just across the Spider-Verse? Because I thought that was across them both.
I think it's across them both.
Okay, so both across and beyond the Spider-Verse.
Yep.
Because Part 2 is renamed to Beyond. Better title.
Yep.
Good.
240. And the pair also said there are over 1,000 people working on this movie.
I believe it.
In comparison, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse had 40 characters. Meanwhile, Fandango's Eric Davis shared that the following quote that Lord and Miller with the directors saying that the sequel is way, way bigger than the last one. They said are on stage talking about Spider-Verse and saying that the largest crew they've ever had, 240 characters. The first one had 40, 6 takes place in 6 universes. This is going to be a huge, huge plot, and it would be hard to believe that. I would say for beyond, like the sequel, the conclusion of this trilogy, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, that now has a release date of March 29th, 2024. I am wondering, are we going to see the Inheritors in Moreland?
Yes, please. Yes, I like them. Yes, please.
As you see, if you're watching, I've
It's like,
changed
son,
the background. I've changed the background to many spiders.
I'm a big fan of them. There's a World's Finest True Believers episode to prove that.
Yep. I would say that would be good. I mean, they talked about how the scene that you saw Miguel's Spider-Man 2099. We see Gwen. We see a pregnant Spider-Woman fighting crime, So we've already got confirmation of new one, and we're going to have 240 characters. Didn't say 240 spiders, 240 characters.
I really wish this footage would just get released. Like I'm like, it's not fun to read a description of someone else seeing footage. Like, it's like, okay, great.
No.
Like, you saw these characters in it. What? Just release it. Like, and they know that people are going to report on it all anyway. All the details are going to come out anyway. Just release it online.
They want that Hall H experience.
They do. Screw it. Man,
It's
we
not
are in
for
a,
us.
we are in a virtual
this
world
isn't for
right
us.
now.
It's the CinemaCon's not
They're
for
holding
us.
for the marketing
No,
push.
it's not.
But I guys, honestly, when you said 240 characters, I started hearing different Spider-Man animated shows theme songs going through my head, like all mashing together. I was like, I'm here for this. I'm here for this. And I'm trying to temper my expectations. Know what happened with Crisis, and I will not let it happen to me again.
I have faith, Alfred. Faith.
Yes, there you go.
It is funny how it goes from no faith whatsoever, and then you switch and talk Spider-Verse, and it's like, I have all the faith in the world. It's like,
Sony can do no wrong.
It's all Sony.
No, well, they're here, Lord Miller. Take this and do stuff with it. We're not going to micromanage.
Remember, they are the producers of this. There are 3 directors on this project.
Yeah. Well, they're
So
running the show is what I appreciate. And
yeah.
I can see that with animation too, Chris, because it's such a big machine
Hmm.
that it's so hard to get in. Like you need 3 directors, and you're overseeing those directors yourself. So
Yep.
I just can't wait for this to come out. This is my second highest anticipated behind X-Men, the animated series revival for animation.
Yep. So let us head to Marvel Studios. So we got 2 parts as we kind of round out the news. So first Black Panther 2 footage released at CinemaCon. So Disney opened their conference with a sizzle reel. Fandango's Eric Davis described the footage featuring the prominent shots of Nakia, Shuri, and Okoye in front of a major battle. President Kevin Feige told the Hollywood Reporter that will feature major 3D offerings and promised director Ryan Coogler is working very hard on the film. We know what the project's been plagued by many difficulties, from COVID to actresses having, little incidents on set and making statements and all this. This restored my faith a little bit more that this movie is going to be happening. If they said there was no footage seen and just continue to describe it, I'd be a little more worried, but we've seen footage. And they did not say the words, we're going to delay it. They seem to be pushing ahead. So this keeps my faith going that this movie will still make its release date.
Yeah, I would agree overall. We're less than 200 days away. Like I feel like if they're going to delay it, like we're gonna know one way or the other in like the next 30 to 60 days, maybe.
I'd say if we do not hear anything by the end of July, this movie's happening this
Yeah,
year.
I agree with that. And also, if you have to move it, you have to move other movies as well. You don't know what affects
Yeah.
this or goes into this. So,
Mhm.
like
I mean,
Brent said, if 200 days out, if you're going to move it, you probably should move it by now, and then you have to move other things.
really, I'm not gonna say by the end of July. I'm gonna modify my statement. If there's not a trailer before Thor: Love and Thunder for this, that will hurt my confidence in it.
Really?
Fair.
Oh, well, yeah. Think about it.
It's their next project. It's their next movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't believe they're gonna have one movie that doesn't have a trailer for the next one.
I will say this is the most positive buzz that's been around this film since it started. It's been hampered by tragedy and missteps and people expecting it to be pushed back a little bit more because of all those things. And the fact that it's still here 200 days, I trust KF that we're going to get it.
KF, really.
KF. Oh, okay. There we go. So
Yeah.
we'll close out with talking a little bit more about the illustrious KF. MCU Phase 5. Marvel Studios announces retreat for next decade of movies. Speaking at CinemaCon, this is per Sean O'Connell and the Hollywood Reporter. Marvel president Kevin Feige revealed himself and other studio figures have just returned from the first in-person Marvel creative retreat in 3 years. He said that board, and he's referring to a physical board that they've created, takes us through the next decade. And the films are unique and special, and they are meant for your theaters. In the next 10 years, the existing characters and new storytelling tools with the multiverse, and anything can happen. So he says, are we back? Yes, I know we're back. So they've planned out the next 10 years.
Is anyone surprised that they're planning that far in advance? My only question is, in 8 years, how close did they come? What all did they modify? What all did they add into it? What did they ultimately subtract from that board? I just wonder how accurate they're going to end up being. But regardless, we know 10 more years of content. I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
I'm with Brent. I want to see the past boards to see what was changed, what was scrapped. I want to see the first board starting with phase 1. But this just shows the planning, well thought out way they do things. Like if Bob said, 10 years is phase 5 to 10. Excited for it. And with the multiverse, I hope we get a Marvel Studios one shot department where we get one shot stories like What If, but for live action will be awesome. That's just a pipe dream for me. But with the multiverse, I feel like at least it's a possibility because you can outright state this is not in the definitive timeline. This is just a random anthology of events for different Earths. So fingers crossed. I want to see that. I've been wanting that kind of stuff since Legends of Tomorrow came out, like way back when, and I was sold a false bag of goodies on that.
Yeah, so again, I don't think we had doubts, but it was nice to hear that they had just wrapped up their retreat. So
I wish I worked if it's like one of those retreats where they have actually people serving. God, would it be awesome to work there for a weekend?
you'd be having a target on your head right now.
John Campia will be messaging me, asking me for pictures.
All right, so that is all the news for this week. As we said, if there's nothing significant next week, we'll punt all the little items to the following week. So, all right, we're going to take our last ad break as we get to listener feedback, Factor Fictions, and Comic Book Club. So, as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. Don't get to choose when ads come on. Give it a 3 count to turn that volume down. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, Brent, what do we got for listener questions this week?
All right. Again, from Dallin says, Dallin, does Natalie Portman become the MCU's new Thor, and does the Hemsworth Thor die?
This is I want to apologize because Dallin actually sent this for us last week, and I did not check our DMs in time for this, so wanted to apologize, and we wanted to make sure we get this on here. So, yeah, what do y'all think?
Ooh, well, this is actually pretty good, actually. So I'm going to say he's not going to die, and we will see him make sporadic appearances. If he's going to die, it's going to be going out fighting something like Galactus, like maybe being a inspiration to the new generation of Avengers that come along in that 5 to 10 years that we have playing there. I want to see Thor go out like, if he didn't go out in the events of Endgame or Infinity War, I want to see him go out in some big bang of an Avengers movie. My personal hope, anyway.
I said it last week that I think this the universe is big enough to have 2 Thors.
Yeah,
and if it's not, we'll have Thor. We'll have the mighty Thor, and we'll have Odin's son.
I do not. Let's answer the first question. Does Natalie Portman become the MCU's new Thor? Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Sure does.
Yep.
Goes by the mighty Thor in the comics. Is Hemsworth Thor going to die? No, I don't think that's going to happen yet. He has talked about being willing to play this character for much, much longer. Audiences love this character. I would be absolutely stunned if he does not make it out of this movie alive.
Yeah. So, what's next?
All right, from Travis Snell. Okay, I don't think I saw one of these questions earlier. Now that some time has passed, what will happen with Thunderbolt Ross? Recast just Red Hulk, or should we consider that version of the character retired until we meet a variant?
Ooh, I'm glad he said that last part, because that was going to be my choice. Somebody else from the multiverse, a different person being Ross, but not looking like the Ross that we got there. It's a little tragic to lose the actual person playing it, but you know that stuff is going to happen, and I'd say we'll get a multiverse variant.
I say no variant, I would say if no variant, it's either recast or he's dead. You know, at that point, I don't see a variant. I could see a recast, but I don't have to see Thunderbolt Ross again. Would I like it? Yes, but I don't need it.
If he's recast, I think it will only be as Red Hulk. I don't think we will actually see the human version again. Maybe a flashback where it's a stunt double who's like in shadows, so you don't really see their face as they become the Red Hulk again. But otherwise, I do wonder though if we will see him again. Like they haven't announced it, but is there any possibility that he's going to pop up in She-Hulk? He could have already.
Was just about to ask you guys that, because
Yeah.
chance he filmed a post-credit scene for something beforehand.
They could have someone play a younger Thunderbolt Ross.
Ooh, that's possible. Yeah.
Ooh, didn't think about that too, Chris. Good call there.
Because it'll be in the past, and they did say that if rumors are be true, that we'll be delving a little bit into Bruce's past. So this next one thinks he's clever.
I mean, he tries. Travis Snell. Kevin Feige comes to you and says you have you can pick a Marvel character with no more than 2 comic appearances to get a show or a movie. Who are you picking? Well, not El Muerto.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this first because I saw this as like, oh yeah, okay, I got a character for you. Has only made one appearance in comics up to this point, very recently actually. X-Men number 21. I say Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige appeared in X-Men number 21 at the Hellfire Gala, and he met Cyclops and said, "So what's your story?" And Cyclops replied, "Well, it's complicated. So, yes, Mr. Kevin Feige, it is time for you to join the MCU." You're welcome, Travis.
I think that's an excellent answer. I like that even more than mine. From Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Volume 2, Number 6, May 2019 is when this came out. Little character by the name of Spider-Bite.
Oh,
Like let's get a live action version of Spider-Bite. That would be a fun, heart gut wrenching story. So we're gonna say that. If you don't know who Spider-Bite is, look him up.
mm-hmm.
I got nothing for this.
Oh well, you could say that. Well, Kevin Feige would never do this. Well, we have Arthur Harrow, so we can't really say.
I mean, Arthur Harrow, I think did only have one or two appearances.
Yes,
so.
he did. Yep.
I was gonna say El Vigente, kind of like this horse type thing, but yeah, sorry, no chance for me on this one. Sorry, Snell.
S-Pub as a response to the last one, say if they recast Thunderbolt Ross and the recast T'Challa, people are going to be really upset. Yeah, probably.
I'll probably live on the island of I think somebody should play the character down the line, but
yeah,
I'm not going to.
Eventually, sure.
Yeah.
Right now, no.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking like tomorrow.
Yeah. And what's our last one?
From S-Bubs, when do you think Werewolf by Night will be officially revealed?
In credits of Moon Knight.
Right?
Yeah.
No.
That'll be my
actually don't.
End credits of Thor: Love and Thunder. Didn't see that coming, did you?
It's all connected.
Yep.
I think it will be officially revealed sometime between Thursday, July 21st and Saturday, July 24th, or Sunday, July 24th, probably Saturday, July 23rd if you want a specific date. San Diego Comic-Con 2022.
Yeah. I said it during my Factor Fictions that we'll get a post credits at the end of Moon Knight that is leading towards Werewolf by Night. Sure, let's go. I'll agree with you, Travis. Let's go with the post credits here, and that's where we'll see Moon Knight.
Yeah, again. I mean, we've talked about it for several weeks now. Like yes, and I'm hoping Moon Knight shows up in the Werewolf by Night special.
Yeah. So, all right. So, thank you for all those questions, and let me pull up the fact or fictions from last week. All right, fact or fiction number 1. We will see a supporting character introduced in What If join the live-action MCU after season 3 of the series. 67% said fact, 33% said fiction. What do you say, Travis, on that one? Supporting character.
I said fact on that one. I voted. Right. I vote every week, so I'm good.
And we thank you for your participation.
Well,
no, let me be more accurate. Thank you for your compliance.
There you go. I don't want to be punished.
Yep. One of the post credits from Moon Knight will be the setup for Werewolf by Night. 94% said fact, 6% said fiction. Assuming you're fact, yes.
Yes, correct.
Fact or fiction number 3: Jane will continue on in the MCU as the Mighty Thor after Thor: Love and Thunder. 68% said fact, 32% said fiction.
I said
I did like S-Bubs in the sense of this should be fact or fact. So, all right. So Travis has 3 and Brent has 1. I
want Travis to go first in case there's overlap.
Yep.
Okay. First one, after the news of this past week of the ticket sales for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange 2 will make $1 billion.
Fiction.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to claim fact for because, post-pandemic world, but I really think this I think this is going to play for a very long time. I don't think there's anything coming to take this out for a while.
I see. I struggle with the billion, and I'll tell you why. It's has a lot more competition a lot sooner than No Way Home had. I'm not saying it's not going to have legs. I'm just saying that there's going to be a lot more competition, especially, it'll have most of May until Top Gun.
One other question. Do you think that Doctor Strange is a much bigger star now after his appearances in Infinity War and a little bit in Endgame, but mostly Infinity War? Do you think
No.
he's a bigger star now and in No Way Home to bring more people from general audience in?
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I see that. I just don't. I think the competition is more there towards the end of its run that can start chipping away at it.
Okay.
So I will say fiction on that.
This is the one I was
I'll
a
be
little
happy to
iffy
eat my
on.
words. I will be very happy to eat my words.
This is the one I was a little iffy on. You can never rule it out with Mario Studios. That's why I threw it in there. Instead of putting 800 million, I find that would be an easy yes for you guys. Chris Hemsworth will appear in at least 3 more MCU properties after Thor: Love and Thunder. I feel like that one might have been a fact or fiction before. Could be wrong.
I think something has alluded to it, but I'll go fact. He wants to play the character. They have no reason to get rid of him. He'll continue.
Cosign. Fact.
Same, like that one. And my honorable mention was the Egyptian gods are the worst observers and the most gullible gods of all time. But that's not it. Moon Knight will have at least 3 seasons.
No.
Fiction.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh my God! You guys did it at the same time too. That was kind of cool.
Sorry. It's a lovely dream, but yeah, they've stuck to their guns on what they mean as limited series. Doesn't mean that the characters won't come back, and I'll stick by my guns. There has not been one character that has just been one and done, and we never see them again out of a main casting.
Dude's a phenomenal actor, and
Yep.
like Brent said at the beginning of this, his performance was outstanding. So yeah, we need to see.
He'll be back. He'll be back. So
That's it.
all right, Brent, you're +1.
All right. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness will be 2022's highest box office performer to date for both domestic opening weekend and worldwide box office. So I'm not saying the highest for the whole year. I'm basically saying it's going to top the Batman.
Okay.
Yes.
So say that one more time.
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness will be 2022's highest box office performer to date for both the domestic opening weekend and the worldwide box office run.
Okay, so like you said, you're not saying for the whole
Year.
time. It'll just be for it'll take the crown.
It will by the time Strange is done, it will have the highest spot. That doesn't mean something later won't beat it.
Okay, I'll say fact.
I'll 100% say fact. I said it might make $1 billion. So, and also a little bit of context too. China was in the middle of a pretty lengthy pandemic wave again, which shut down like 30-40% of their theaters.
Yes, yeah.
No, but they shut down 30-40% of their theaters. That's kind of stopped now. They're back up and running for the most part. So that's 10 million. But I'm just saying, like, there little factors that cut a little bit of the Batman out. But I still don't think it would come anywhere near Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I mean, context there for I don't know how much the Batman did in China. I didn't look that up earlier.
Not great.
Last I heard was like 20 million, something like that, maybe 30 million in that ballpark. But domestically, its opening weekend was 134, so I'm saying Strange is going to hit at least 135. I'm a fact on this.
Oh, it's going way.
Currently, now the Batman's still in theaters. Go see it if you haven't. It's great. Is at 758 worldwide. Yes, I'm taking the over on that one as well. It's worth noting the first Doctor Strange movie made 600 something, 110 of which was from China. And we don't know yet that they're going to get a China release. So it is worth noting that they may not, but that might just make it more apples to apples because yes, Batman was in China, but it really wasn't. I mean, it's next to nothing.
Yep. So, all right. Well, we will post all those on Sunday for you to vote on. And all right. Let us conclude our show with Comic Book Club, Illuminati #0. So, Travis, did you read this at all, or no?
No, I'm going to bow out now.
Oh, okay.
We're getting close to 1 o'clock here in the morning. I figured I would step out for your comment corner. Thank you guys for having me. Travis_156 on Twitter, DC Alliance and Superhero Discussions on the network. Guys, I'll see you next Friday.
Yep. See you then.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. All right. So Illuminati #0. Now, I definitely remember reading this first run because I was all into everything tie-in wise with Civil War. So
Yes,
this was
absolutely.
a must read for me. So what did you think about revisiting this one?
I love this story. I think it's such a fascinating idea. This group of bigwigs, for lack of a better term, across several different Marvel franchises. You know, you've got your Avengers, you've got Fantastic Four, you've got Inhumans, and of course Doctor Strange, Black Panther. I love this. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, it like I said, when one of the choices we had for the comic book club was Kree Skull War, and this is how it kind of starts off is like this discussion saying that we could have prevented this. We all had pieces of this, and they exploited it, and they tried to turn the Skrulls tried to turn people against us. And I'll tell you right now, the most fascinating character in this entire one issue is Namor. By far my favorite character for this issue.
Yeah, I totally get why that would be the case because I mean he definitely kind of goes on a journey of like who he agrees with throughout the different things throughout the storylines, and that this is Brian Michael Bendis, and this is like classic Bendis. I'm a huge fan of Bendis's writing for Marvel. I don't think he's, for whatever reason, he just hasn't clicked with DC the same way he
Correct.
clicks with Marvel.
I agree.
But you give him a talking heads Marvel story, and that's predominantly what this is. It's predominantly characters just talking, and it's just so compelling. Like I think most of his best work is mainly just few characters having a discussion.
Yeah, and the reason I like what Namor has to bring to it is he brings some very, very good questions. Even with Black Panther, is just like, don't do this. Don't bring this committee back together. Don't like abandon it now. And Namor brings up like how many questionable characters have you had on the team altogether? Exactly how do you screen those students at your school? I hear rumors of a mutant assassin work for the Canadians. Wasn't it Black Bolt's brother that the architect of the Kree War? Isn't
Mm-hmm.
that what we've heard? He said, "You want all that spilling out into the public eye." And he's right. I mean, there's a lot in danger, and they're saying, "Wait a minute, you want us five to control how we direct the heroes of this of the rest of the universe?" And the discussion that Maria Hill has in the sense of, Hulk and what her one of her agents said, like, um, when is we going to be responsible for this? Why is he, still alive? Bring up the idea of Spider-Man and Green Goblin saying, Spider-Man keeps putting him in jail. Shouldn't we start blaming Spider-Man for why isn't he doing what we all know he should do is just take him out?
Right. At some point, when do the people who were killed by Green Goblin become the problem, the fault of Spider-Man? You know, it's a classic thing we've heard about Batman and the Joker for years. And they ask that question and they come to the conclusion that Hulk is too dangerous to be around. And then Namor, to, just to show how interesting he is looking at all this stuff, kind of flips the other way on them all and
Yeah.
basically says something along the lines of, if you move against him, I will move against you. Like basically that's what he says.
Yeah. And we get to that. We see what becomes later on, what become Planet Hulk. And then we see another meeting of today. Again, this was a comic Road to Civil War, where basically Tony's telling them there's this legislation coming forward, superhero registration. This is what it's going to deal with. There will be no more, secret identities. They're going to register with the government. They're going to be trained by the government. The government's going to tell us where to go and what to do. And he literally walks. I mean, again, he this is meant to be. We already kind of know what this happens. Like he literally predicts what happens in Stamford, Connecticut, saying
Yes.
this is what's going to happen, and then we will not have a choice. They will force this on us. We need to do this now before something like this happens. And as Namor goes, like, you brought this on yourselves. Not don't. They're not going to come for me because I control 70% of the of the water. Please.
and that's it, into Civil War we go. And I really felt like with the rumors of the Illuminati and stuff seemingly being a part of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, we have time. Let's get in what these issues before next week.
Especially the way Strange votes too is just like, hey, it's wrong. I'm out. I'm not doing this. Especially when like Mr. Fantastic goes, he's complete. I'm on Tony's side. He's completely right. And he's like, fine, I'm done here. Don't ever call on me again. And Black Bolt's with him. And I love how Reed ends it saying, well, I'm going to go home and fight with my wife for the rest of my life about this.
Yep, pretty much.
Yep. And yeah, I have to say, Sue's ending of when she leaves Reed over this is pretty fascinating quote at that point. I'll just leave it at that. It's and I just love the ending panel. It was fun while it lasted, and he just leaves Tony looking defeated, saying it really was. It was a dream, and it fits just because of what we see even in the MCU, what Tony tried to do. So
exactly.
So yeah, great decision, Brent. You're right. Let's get that in. We can delay Annihilation until the next week. So yeah, so Annihilation we will start next week, number 1. Make sure to check that out. And all right, episode volume 105 in the books. So again, I want to quickly thank our sponsor, again, organicpricebooks.com. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. Immaculate packaging, ships around the world, excellent customer service. Again, MarvelGUA at the checkout every single time. All right, Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Yeah, Brentech Prime on Twitter, if you're still there after looks like it's shaping up to buy it. And then
Maybe not.
Right? Maybe not. And then Brentech Prime on TikTok as well. So come have some fun over there.
Brent's got a 50,000 tracking just talking about a Thor popcorn.
Yeah, that's the one that popped off. I don't understand TikTok, but it's a blast. It's so much fun.
It's very positive. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel 8 Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide fact or fictions, feedback, ask questions. Continue to rate and review Marvel Alliance, the GUA on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I want to thank everyone for joining us in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Remember, next week we go live on Wednesday night for the finale of Moon Knight. Our big review of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness comes Friday night. And thank you all for listening. See you all next week. Stay safe out there, everyone. As Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. Well, post-credits, we're not done with CinemaCon. Not by a long shot. We're going to go back to Sony. Can't you just feel that excitement when we say we're going back to Sony? We got to go back. We got to go back. Sony gave one big confirmation. Venom 3 is happening.
Interesting. Not Morbius 2?
Not Morbius 2. No other information, no other confirmation about director, story, anything, just like confirming Venom 3. So first off, what are your hopes for Venom 3?
A slightly higher budget for some of the CGI stuff. Like some of the symbiote stuff could be cleaned up a little bit, but really look who just popped in.
Really, we got a portal. We got a portal in.
50,000 views for a video about a bucket. 50,000 views about a popcorn bucket. And
it's 56,000 now.
56.
To be technical.
All Brent does is he just says, I have never bought a one. I want to buy this one, and it's 56,000. Are you kidding me? This is baloney. This makes zero sense.
The real moving on past that, the real hope for Venom 3 is a non-symbiote antagonist. They've used the big one with Carnage. I don't know how I would feel about Null. Does that count as a non-symbiote antagonist? I don't know, but it's like we got Venom versus, an evil version of himself in Venom 1. We got it versus the evil version of himself in Venom 2. Mix it up a little, Make him fight Morbius. There you go. I don't care. Just somebody else.
I thought Morbius is Venom. He said it.
He did say he's Venom. It's just going to be like Venom versus Toxin or something like that.
I like this background. I just got back from the kids' soccer, so I haven't tuned in all except for the last bit here. I'm waiting for Taylor because we're gonna start Geek First in 15 minutes. He's like, sorry, I'm stuck in the line at Dairy Queen. But they're a very great background. I think I think Null is like a 50-50 where like he counts as a symbiote, but to me he doesn't act like he's very emotive. He has a much more different look than a symbiote. So I feel like it's somewhere in the middle. I kind of hope that's the way they go because I just want them to get nuts if we're gonna do what we're doing in Venom. But I think you will get some variant of I think Brent's probably right about Toxin or someone else or what is the is her name Scream, the one that's yellow and has like the big. I could see them going that route. I would actually like because oh god, what was her name? What was the villain we just got in Venom 2? Shriek. Yeah. I think she was kind of in the middle, like she kind of had a good turn at the end. I would like it if we wouldn't Scream, like give us a good female antagonist, take on Eddie Brock, but I think it's probably just gonna be Toxin or someone else, but I hope it's Null.
I thought they were setting up Maximum Carnage, and then they killed Carnage. They got rid of Shriek. I'm like, oh come on, Morbius, who's a character in that, he bombed. So what are you gonna do?
I do think it's gonna be Null, and the reason I'll lean it is the end credit scene, is that discussion that he had about where he comes from, what he kind of does, and I think the payoff for that we didn't get like we thought we were gonna get. So I think we're gonna delve into more of the Null background.
Now, not that I'm getting Sony, like I'm not trying to egg them on, but do you think there's any chance you could get like a Venom 3 that kind of deals with that, but it really sets up Venom 4 where it's like he's fully going to space, this and that? Like I think we might get that.
Space Knight Venom, I love it.
Well, yeah,
wasn't he a member of the Guardians for a while?
He was.
That's the next big MCU crossover.
Flash Thompson, Agent Venom.
You know what? As much as I've disliked Venom, whatnot, Tom Hardy would actually have a very fun dynamic with those Guardians. Like, obviously, a bunch of them are going to die in a few years, so that's not going to happen. But just like I could see like Tom Hardy and Chris Pratt like having some really good screen time. Just even Rocket commenting on the symbiote itself. That's 10 minutes of comedy gold right there.
At least,
yeah.
But I'm gonna have that tendril. That I will get that.
I'm gonna have that tendril.
Yeah.
But you brought up a point, Brent. Nothing about a Morbius 2. How much do we read into that?
But you said earlier it didn't lose money or whatever. I'm like, are we sure about that?
Even if you double the budget, it's broke even. It's at least broken even, unless
barely.
It's like
it still did it.
It still did.
Call it a bomb.
Unless it's like we did, they never said this, but we talked about this, I think, in chats where remember Matt Reeves was like, oh, Batman cost $100 million, but it ended up costing $200 million after COVID. If Morbius is like that, where the budget's actually higher than we know, then maybe something. But as of right now, if you just take it on face value, it broke even. It made some shekels.
If you Google what the Morbius budget is, it used to say 75 million. Now it says 75 to 83 million. So I'm like, oh, they're starting to change it now. They're starting to report a little different. And its current box office is at 157.2. Let's put it this way. I stand by. Ultimately, this movie will not cost them money. It will just take longer to turn any kind of profit. It's not doing good enough to greenlight a sequel. Like you'd have to be super confident on your character to greenlight a sequel after a opening like this, and it's not there. And look at
it
would have been a bigger shock than El Muerto if they had greenlit a sequel to this.
And obviously, it's a few weeks after. But look at the Batman, much bigger hit. Batman's been out since March. Okay, you get the sequel happening. Morbius been out since April, not as long, but it's probably made the bulk of its money. Like it's probably not going to make much more.
We don't have Spider-Man 4 announced.
No, just El Muerto. Great. But no, I'm taking the approach of I don't think a Morbius 2 is in the cards, but you will see Jared Leto again one way or another in this universe.
That I think I'll go with. You know, there's a new Marvel movie coming out in a week. Morbius is done. They're done. They can't even trade on the Marvel
I thought you were going to say
anymore.
something worse.
Wait a minute. Are we going to see American Chavez and Doctor Strange at the grave saying, hey?
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We'll see more. We'll see Michael Morbius again, but Morbius 2 is sorry, Sony, you tried, but let's go El Muerto and Craven and hey, you know what? The heroine of the Sony Spider-Man universe, Madam Web, is here to save everyone. Don't worry, she's coming.
She'll pull it off.
She will. All right, we'll see you next week. Get double dose next week. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.